Hi, my name is Julia, and this is my story. I grew up in a sort of broken home where my dad was a verbally abusive addict, and my mother had to work overtime to play the two roles of a mother and a father, essentially. She worked hard, tirelessly, and aside from that, she did make sure that my brother and I were involved in church, and we went to the Catholic Church every Sunday. She made sure that we got our baptism through our first communion and our confirmation between her and my grandmother. That was a big part of our lives growing up. I was sort of things to do to check off of a list, essentially. Didn't necessarily understand the purpose of everything, was just kind of doing it because it was the norm. It was contradicting what the home life was. My father was constantly in a drug-induced state. My mother put up with it, kind of had a built-up anger from it all. I put a lot of effort and time into excelling in academics and sports so that I could kind of overcome the embarrassment that I had. I cared too much about what people thought, and so I threw myself into things to make myself look better on the outside, which kind of left little room for religion. I've always believed in God, but I haven't really poured enough time into learning about it. I just did those things that I needed to do to be Catholic in a sense. It wasn't until a few years after Cody and I got married that religion started to come into our relationship. I was at work and discussing how I needed a mentor for my master's program, and a pharmacist at the time was nearby overhearing the conversation, and she kind of offered that up to me. Little did I know our one-on-one meetings sort of blossomed into faith-based conversations, and I didn't know at the time that that was something that I actually really needed versus an education mentor. It turned into a faith mentor almost. Liz opened up her home to Cody and I and a couple other groups to make a small group for us to discuss religion and that sort of thing. And at the time I thought it was something that I needed to do for Cody's sake, for us to be able to have a family that went to church on Sundays and that sort of thing, always kind of foreseeing the future with that. And I thought it was important that Cody needed to be introduced to God because I thought that that was something that I already had and I didn't need it, and it was mostly for him. I would say the time where it kind of turned around was one Sunday. Liz and Ryan, Liz's husband, asked us to come to Willow Creek Church. And a little bit of hesitancy on both mine and Cody's side, a little out of my comfort zone with having grown up in the Catholic Church, and Cody hadn't ever attended church at all. And I was glad that we ended up going. It was a very great experience. Cody and I both left wanting more. We ended up signing up for the Starting Point class with Pastor Mike, and this was kind of where everything took a turning point. During the Starting Point class, Pastor Mike took us through the Stranger book, and this is when I started to realize what it really meant to be a believer, and that it wasn't necessarily my good works that was going to get me into heaven. And there was a part in the Stranger study that we were doing that I realized I was trying to push religion on Cody when ultimately I was looking for a relationship with God and Jesus Christ that I never really had, that I thought I had already had, where this wasn't my opportunity to actually open my eyes to realize that relationship part with God, and knowing that Jesus is the only way to heaven, and that Jesus Christ died on the cross for our sins, and that he shed his blood for our sins, that relationship component was ultimately the most important thing that I needed to realize, and that nothing that I can do on this earth is going to add to that sacrifice that Jesus had for us. Through the Stranger study and with Pastor Mike, Cody and I opened up to God through our relationship, found Christ together. And since then, we have been regular attending Willow Creek Church, and my heart belongs here, and I could just scream in joy that Cody and I found a church. A year ago, I never thought that we would, so. Now I'm gonna get all teary-eyed. I know.